Good morning students, welcome back to online classes of pulse and digital circuits. In yesterday's class we have discussed about the steady state output waveform of a square input when you are applying to a clamping circuit, and the main important topic that we have discussed yesterday was clamping circuit taking into consideration of source and diode resistance. Correct? So what was the topic that we have discussed? Clamping circuit, that is taking source and diode resistance into the account. That means you are considering the source resistance also as well as your diode resistance also, because in the initially we didn't had any kind of resistance. We just have in a clamping circuit, if you go through with that one, we had a capacitor which was followed up by a diode, but we didn't have any kind of discharge path. For that particular discharge path we have added up a resistor across your diode. So here due to this one we are having a discharge path for your capacitor. Here in this clamping circuit we are taking the consideration of your source resistance Rs as well as your diode resistance capital R. Now we have seen the two different equivalent circuits. When your diode is in the forward bias condition, what will be the output and how you are finding out the voltages. And the second one we have seen when your diode is in the reverse direction, how your diode will be in the reverse bias condition, how your output voltages will be obtained. So the two voltages we have seen, V1 as well, actually 4 voltages will be there depending upon the output that we have got. In the output side, of course, we will be getting some tilts. I'll show once again. So these are the tilts at the output side that we have got, and we have found the voltages V1, V2, V1 dash as well as your V2 dash. I hope you are all clear with the derivation part that we have done and how we have found the V1 as well as V1 dash, V2 and V2 dash. Well, I'll just revise once again the V1 dash and V2 dash equations that we have obtained by applying the condition and considering that when t is equals to 0 and t is equals to tr. T is equals to 0 means from here to here in this particular time interval we have found the value of V1 dash. Now from the time interval t to T1 to T1 plus T2, in this particular part we have found the V2 dash. So V1 dash formula that we have obtained by considering all the conditions, that is V1 into e to the power of minus T1 divided by Rf plus Rs into C. I hope you all remember why we got this Rf plus Rs. So what is the condition here? What we are saying, the condition when the diode in the first time interval at the T1, in this particular time interval from here to here, your T1 time, the diode will be conducting, that is it will be in the forward bias condition. So that's the reason you will be getting the output as Rf plus Rs into C, that is the time constant that is obtained. See here this particular part. So here it is the Vc, this is the capacitor C, and this is Rf plus Rs into C. This is a time constant, and a time interval here what is considering T1. Correct? Now when comes to the V2 dash, what is the output that will be obtaining? Your diode is in the non-conducting condition, so your diode is in the reverse bias and the current will be also in the reverse bias. So your V2 dash that will be is equals to V2 into e to the power of minus T2 divided by R plus Rs into C. This is the time constant that we have obtained. Fine. So this is how you will be going to find out your V1 dash as well as your V2 dash. Correct? These two parts we have find it out. I hope you are clear with this one. Now the last topic that I am going to discuss of this chapter is the clamping circuit theorem, which is very important. Okay, I have just highlighted the theorem statement, then I'll explain you clearly what actually this clamping circuit theorem states. The clamping circuit theorem states that for any input waveform under steady state conditions, the ratio of the area under the output wave curve or the output voltage curve in the forward direction to the reverse direction will be is equals to ratio of R divided by Rs. So that is actually Rf divided by R. This is Rf. Okay, I'll show in one more picture also. So what is the theorem stating? The clamping circuit theorem states that for any input waveform under steady state conditions, the area of your output voltage waveform in the forward direction to the reverse direction will be is equals to ratio of your forward resistance to the reverse resistance. Capital R is nothing but your reverse resistance. This is your RF value. Okay, so what the output we will be getting, AF divided by AR, that is equals to RF divided by R. Simply this is what the theorem will be stating. So what clamping circuit theorem states that the ratio of area in the forward direction and in the reverse direction will be is equals to resistances in the forward direction as well as in the reverse direction, or forward resistance to the reverse resistance. So here you can see the formula, AF divided by AR is equals to RF divided by R. Either you can write as AF by RF is equals to AR by R. This I'll show how you got these equations. Okay. Now see, from a particular source or a textbook I have got this. So what we have said, what was the theorem? Area, the area and in the steady state condition of your output voltage waveform, the area under the forward bias direction. This is the area under the forward bias direction. See this particular part. So this is the area under the forward bias direction to the area under the reverse bias direction. This one, AF divided by AR will be is equals to reference forward resistance to the reverse resistance. This is the forward resistance and you will be getting the reverse resistance here at this particular part. This is your reverse resistance. So how you are going to find out that particular one? So if VF of t is the output waveform in the forward direction, of course you got the output waveform as the VF of t. In this particular time period, your output will be VF of t in the forward direction. So the capacitor will be charging the current. How your capacitor is charging the current, in which direction? That is in the forward direction. Yes, here it is charging in the forward direction and it is independent of your input waveform and the magnitude that will be occurring from your particular source. So by the Ohm's law, what is the output? I is equals to of course V by R. What is the output voltage that we have got here? See, VF of t. So I will be writing VF of t divided by R. Okay, so here you see, therefore the charge acquired by the capacitor during this forward time interval can be given as integration of 0 to t. Which time period I am considering, ma? This one, from here to here, in this time period from here to here. So 0 to t. So 0 to t, IF of t into dt is equals to integration of t into what is IU is equals to V by R, and what is the V we have got here? Output waveform VF of t. So VF of t divided by RF. So I will be taking this variable value outside. So I will be integrating this one. So 0 to t into VF of t into dt. So this particular part I am giving it as a constant of AF. So the in the forward direction, the output that I have got, or the current which has been produced in that particular one, can be obtained as AF divided by RF. Now similarly, when it comes to the reverse direction, so this is the reverse bias condition, right? So the output voltage here will be VR of t. Whatever the output that will be obtained is your VR of t. That will be completely reverse direction of your previous one. And the current will be discharging here. So this is in the reverse direction, right? Now your current will be discharging here. So your that current can be given as IR of t. And what is IR of t is equals to VR of t. VR of t is nothing but reverse voltage. Okay, voltage that is acquired in your reverse direction. So VR of t and divided by R. Why you got R? Because this is the resistance value in the reverse direction. So that can be given, and the time interval is now from T1 to T1 plus T2. I hope you are clear here. T1 to T1 plus T2. So the integration can be given from the time interval T1 to T1 plus T2 into IR of t dt is equals to integration of T1 to T1 plus T2 VR of t divided by R into dt. Now I will take out the R term outside of the integration, then I will be giving this particular part as an AR. So in this steady state conditions, whatever the net charge that has been charged in the capacitor must be 0. So as to get that one, it should be charged and again it should be discharged. So net charge that should be 0 in your particular capacitor. So as to get that particular one, we have to equate this equation. What are the equations? AF divided by RF is equals to AR divided by R. So now what I'm doing, I'm just equating the equation. See here, AF divided by RF is equals to AR divided by R. So that can also be written as AF divided by AR is equals to RF divided by R. So what is the theorem that is stating? We have proved the theorem, right? So what it is stating, area under the forward ratio of area under the forward direction to the reverse direction of your output curve will be is equals to ratio of forward resistance to the reverse resistance. So this is what clamping circuit theorem states. Fine. So this was about your clamping circuit theorem, and this ends your complete second chapter, and we are moving for the next one. Okay, so I hope you are all clear with this part. Once I'll show you the syllabus copy, you people will be having an idea that we have cleared, we have covered all the topics, and what is the next chapter that we are going to start here today. See here, the nonlinear wave shaping. In that one, first we have covered the diode clippers. Very first clippers we have seen. What are different kinds of clippers? Okay, one independent level clippers clipping at two independent levels. Then we have seen the transistor clippers, and very importantly we have covered the topic of comparators and applications of your voltage comparators. Applications of voltage comparators is very important. I request all the students, please go back to the last classes and revise the applications of voltage comparators, which are mostly used in your pulse time modulation, that are nothing but pulse width modulation and pulse position modulation. They can also be used in phase meters, and they are mainly used to generate square waves from the sine waves. So whenever you are giving a sine wave as an input, you are able to generate the square wave by using these comparators, and they can also be used in timing makers generating for your sine wave. Okay, so these are all the applications. I have listed 3 to 4 applications. Please once again revise that one. I'll be sharing the link of that particular class along with this one. Then we have seen the clamping operations and the clamping circuits that affect the diode characteristics, and we have also covered the clamping circuit theorem also. So now we will be moving to our next chapter. So here we are having the third chapter as a multi-vibrators. It's very important. So before we moving on to that one, I'll be covering first the sampling gates. It's a small chapter, it's a small unit, so very easily we can cover this one. So first I'll wind it up with the 4th and 5th chapters, then I'll start this third unit. Okay, fine. So the third unit that I'm going to start here is your sampling gates. You people might be knowing what are gates actually. You have seen different kinds of gates. You have seen universal gates. Okay, you have seen normal your logic gates like AND, OR, and NOT gates. Okay, now here in your pulse and digital circuits, we are going to discuss about the sampling gates. What actually sampling gates means? So sampling gates are nothing but the output signal must be same as the input, and it should be proportional to the input signal in a particular selected time interval, or else it should be 0. Okay, I'll explain once again. The output signal must be same as the input signal at some particular time. After that it should be 0. We should not get any kind of output in that particular time. So that particular selected time is called as your transmission period. Okay, so here if you see this one, this is what we call as transmission period. Okay, so now what we are saying in this particular sampling gates, when suppose I am giving a voltage of some 5 volts, or some particular time period will be given. So in that particular time period only your signal has to be moved on, and after that it should not be giving any kind of output. Okay, so that particular output will be 0. So the selected time period is called as a transmission period, and other time period is called as your non-transmission period. So this is selected using a control signal which will be indicated by VC. Okay, so what is the sampling gates? Sampling gate is the one which will be helping to select the transmission signal in some particular time interval, for which your output will be same as the input, or else it will be 0. and that particular time is selected by using a control signal or a selection signal, and that can be indicated as VC. I'll just show you the figure so it will be very clear for you people. See here in this part what I am saying, sampling gate. What is the input I am giving to your sampling gate is your Vs. This is your input signal, and what is the output? This is your V0. So what we have said, sampling gate, what it will be doing, it will be giving the exact output as what we have got the input, but it should be given in a particular time, and that particular time is controlled by using a signal called as controlling signal or selection signal, that is called as your VC. Now I am giving a pulse to that one, zeros and ones or something. So whenever the control signal is at V1, the sampling gate will be closed, and whenever the signal or the control signal is VC, then your sampling gate will be open, and the pulse width will be TG, that is indicating the period for which gate pulse is applied. So in this particular time period only, your output will be reaching to, your input will be reaching to the output, and this output will be same to that of your input. Okay, so in afterwards, after this particular time, when your VC it goes to 0 or VC comes to the closed condition, your output will be not be same as the input, but it will be 0. That is what we have discussed, right? Once go back to the definition and see. For a sampling gate, the output must be same as the input or proportional to the input signal in the selected time interval, and should be 0 otherwise. And that particular selected time period is called as your transmission period. So this is called as your transmission period, and other than that one is called as your non-transmission period. It means there will be no transmission of your input to the output. So whenever your signal is open, your control signal is open, then only you will be giving the, you will be obtaining the output, and that output will be similar or proportional or same to that of your input. Okay, I hope you are clear with this sampling gate definition and the introduction part of your sampling gate. So sampling gate can also be called as your linear gates or transmission gates, or you can also call it as selection circuits. Yes, so selection means you are selecting particular time period, in that time period only you are getting that particular signals, or you can also call it as transmission gates, you are transmitting that particular input in some pulse width of time. Then it is also called as your linear gates. So the output will be an exact reproduction of the input during that particular sampling time interval. So now here the sampling may be unidirectional sampling gates or bidirectional. Here you are having again two types of sampling gates. Okay. So see, next one is your types of sampling gates. So as I have said, there are two kinds of sampling gates. First one is your unidirectional sampling gate, and the second one is your bidirectional of sampling gate. First I'll say what I'll just explain what is exactly what unidirectional sampling gate means. A gate which a sampling gate which transmits the signals only of one polarity. Okay, either it may be transmit positive part of the cycle, or it may transmit the negative part of the cycle, depends. So that's the reason we call it as unidirectional sampling gate, which means it will be transmitting the signals of only one polarity. Now tell me, what is exactly bidirectional? So this is what which will be transmitting the signals of both the polarities, either positive or negative, correct? So both the waveforms at a time can be transmitted by using your bidirectional sampling gates, whereas your unidirectional only one part, only one polarity can be obtained, right? So I'll just read out the definition what I have given over here. The type of sampling gate can pass either positive or negative going pulses through them. So they are constructed by using the diodes. But when it comes to the bidirectional sampling gates, these type of sampling gates can pass both positive as well as a negative going pulses through them, and they are constructed either by diodes or your bijunctional polar transistors, BJTs. Okay, so this is the definition of your bidirectional as well as your unidirectional sampling gates. I hope it is clear what is a unidirectional and a bidirectional sampling gate. We'll just see what is the circuit diagram for that one. So here I have drawn the figure. I hope this clear will be very easy for you people to understand. So this is the gate. This is unidirectional diode gate. Okay, so this is unidirectional diode gate. So I am using a diode, and please concentrate, the diode is in the forward bias condition. Okay, unidirectional sampling gate, and in that one I am using a diode. So it is a gate which will be transmitting only positive going input pulses, because I am using the diode and that too in the forward direction, so it will be transmitting only your positive going input pulses. Okay, and what I am having here, I am having a capacitor, a diode, and the two resistors I am having here. One is a load resistor and a normal resistor over here. And the signal I am applying here is a rectangular waveform. Okay, so this is what I am applying here is a rectangular waveform. So the gate signal is a rectangular waveform that will be making you to transmit the signal between the voltages V1 as well as your V2. So here these kind of pulses are what we call this pulse actually. I hope you remember, that is nothing but your control pulse. We have seen, right, in that one VC in your particular part. Right here, see here what we have got, this is the VC, that is what we called as VC here. So this one is called as your control pulse or a selector pulse, or it has a call it also as enabling pulse. So when the gate signaling or the gating signal is taken to the low part, that is minus V2, the diode is be heavily back biased and there will be no output voltage. Whenever your output voltage, your control signal is at minus V2, so there will be no output here in this particular condition. Okay, V0 will be is equals to 0. Now when the gate signal is at the upper level, that is minus V1, then you will be having a time coincident signal at your input pulse here. So this one is also high and this one is also high. So they will be having a coincident in that particular input signal, and that may be transmitted as the output. Now your output will be V0 that is equals to V in. Can I give like that? Because your output will be same exact that as your input signal. So the gate is not suitable for the transmitting a part of portion of your continuous waveform. So that's the reason what we will be doing, we will be having some particular pulses which are very short in duration, and so that they may transmit your input signals very satisfactorily. So that's the reason we take a short input pulses over at the input side here. So this see the width of this particular pulse and this particular pulse. So here we will be taking a short pulses duration or a short duration of pulses, so that the input may be transmitted very satisfactorily. So that's the reason we take a short pulses. So I hope you are clear with the operation of unidirectional sampling gate. We are using a diode which will be having a capacitor and followed up by two resistors, and we are using a voltage control signal, correct? So here is the input signal, this is your control pulse or the control signal, and that will be combined. So when the input is at minus V2, when it is given, so there is no output, it will be 0, V0 is equals to 0. And when it is also high, your input signal is also high, you will be having a time coincident between these two parts of the signal, and your pulse may be transmitted now. This particular pulse may be transmitted now as the output, and we can also give it as V0 is equals to V in. Okay, but for if this gate is not particularly suitable for transmitting large portion of pulses at a time, so what we will be doing, we will be making this pulses duration as very short, so that you can transmit the input signals very satisfactorily. So this is how you will be giving your unidirectional sampling gate works. Okay, now I'll just say some of the advantages that we are having here. It is extremely simple. Okay, this, yes, you can see here this part is extremely simple, right? Okay, see here this is very simple, and there is very little time delay through the gate, because we are having, what we have done, we have made the pulses or duration as very short, so there is a very little or very small time delay through the gate. Then next, the gate draws no current in your quiescent condition, and the last one, it can be extended into multiple input or circuits. So this can be used for your multiple inputs or circuit, or is nothing a part of addition part. So when if you want this application where you are using the multiple input or circuit, you can go for this unidirectional sampling gate. So this was about your unidirectional sampling gate. And we are also having two disadvantages in this one. One is interaction between your signal source and the control voltage is very difficult, and there will be limited use of slow rise of control voltage at this particular diode, because we have to limit the slow rise of your control voltage. There will be slow rise in your particular control voltage, okay, or your selector pulse or enable pulse. So that is a disadvantage in your unidirectional sampling gate. So as to overcome that one, we will be moving on to the next part, that is your bidirectional diode. Okay. So here in this bidirectional diode, we will be passing both positive as well as the negative pulses, and what are the disadvantages are present in your unidirectional sampling gate, that can also be mitigated. So I hope you are clear with this part of your next chapter, and also you are very clear with the previous topics that we have discussed. In case of any doubts regarding all these topics, please do let me know. We are very will be very happy to help all you people, all the students. Fine, ma'am. I'll wind up the class here itself. Thank you.